Good morning, and welcome to the January 9th Board of Adjustments meeting. If the secretary would take roll of the members present. We have minutes of our last meeting of November 14th, 2022 before us. Do I have a motion to accept the minutes as printed, or are there corrections?
I make a motion to accept the minutes as printed.
Trevor, is there a second? Thank you. This morning, we have on our regular agenda, we have to consider a variance request to reduce the required 11 off-street parking spaces for a daycare service to 0 off-street parking, section 3909003, schedule of off-street parking requirements. Table 9-1, minimum off-street parking requirements. Civic use daycare formula, 1 space per 5 persons, capacity plus 1 space per employee of largest shift at 30/5 children plus 5 employees equals 6 plus 5, 11 spaces. Property is located at 357 First Street East, Dickinson, North Dakota. Is there anyone here to speak for that variance? You state your name and tell us a little bit about your program.
I am Krista Brandt, owner and operator of Happy Campers Daycare.
Okay.
I currently run an in-home for the last 5 years here in Dickinson. I have been licensed through the state of North Dakota. With the ongoing need in Dickinson, God just moved my heart this year to open a facility for 30 children in the old Artistic Exchange Dance Studio building down the road. The reason we are coming before you to ask for less parking spaces, as a licensed daycare, we are required to have a outside play area. Roosevelt is a cross street, but because it is not a public park, it cannot be counted as a play area for our daycare. So we have a back parking lot that has 4 parking spaces. However, that is where we need to fence in an area to provide a private play space for our children. If you guys allow us to do that, then we can provide a private play space. As far as parking for our daycare, realistically, parents are there maybe 5 to 10 minutes dropping off their kids. So the children's parking spaces aren't going to be throughout the day. It would just be the 5 employees, and that's at the highest shift. If we have older kids present, we may only need 3 or 4 employees on shift at each hour. As far as what has been there previously, we will have far less traffic than the dance studio that was there before us. That would be impending businesses around us, and our highest flow of traffic is going to be in the morning from approximately 6 to 9, and that's going to be 30 families moving in and out. Now, are we going to have a full 30 families? Absolutely not, because a lot of families bring 2 children at a time. That's lessening your traffic there. So I just ask that if you guys would consider it, we would highly appreciate it to bring some more safe licensed daycare to the children of Dickinson.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions for this young lady? If not, is there anyone here to speak against this variance? Please come up to the podium and state your name.
Good morning. My name is Don Height. Excuse me. And I'm the owner of King Shoppers Plaza across the street from the proposed building here. First that I want to say is I am for business in Dickinson. I've been a businessman my whole life, okay? I am here to talk about the problem of if we do the no requirement for the parking, the impact that it has had previously on us from the previous tenant that was in there to where it can be, okay? So The problem of not being required to have a street parking spaces is for the building will be increased pressure on the King Shoppers Plaza parking lot and the tenants there. Because what happens is, we see the vehicles as they drop off. If it's busy, they're over in the parking lot and all the spaces in front of where the tenants that pay to have off-street parking, they use those spots. Okay? Other businesses around us also have off-street parking. The building in question has 3 to 4 right now. Okay, so that, we don't have any problem with that. There also is a lot across the street that would be to the east that is for sale that would take care of the parking situation for that building. As I can see this come down the road, because I've experienced it once already, this problem won't go away. The parking lot that the city used to have is no longer there, and the closest parking lot now is on 3rd Avenue East, a block away, so we know they won't use that. Okay. So, if the city allowed the 0 parking off-street, where will you require the tenants and customers to park? That's going to be a question here. Or is it just a free-for-all? So in light of this situation, I'm requesting that denial of the 0 off-street parking, that it be denied.
Okay. Okay. How does the city view this?
The requirements are set forth in the municipal code. That's why we're in front of the board today. Our code mandates that you have the off-street parking, and if you don't have it, you come in front of the Board of Adjustment and ask for that variance. The code still states that you need 11 off-street parking spaces.
Okay. Okay. Anybody else to speak?
So I
Go
did
ahead,
have
Don.
one other thing, is, and the reason I like to use the lot so much is because I'm very particular about how clean we keep that lot. If you drove down there now, there's no snow on that lot, so it's so easy to come into the lot, take up the parking places of the other tenants, and walk across the street. Besides, I have huge costs of snow removal, maintenance, and taxes that I pay on there, so I don't deem that it's right for other business owners not to have to do what we do. That's all I have.
Okay,
Great, thank you.
thanks, Don.
Hello,
Good
Jay
morning.
Wilhelm. Have the formerly what was known as the old XL Cleaner Building. I can agree with most everything she said. Daycare is definitely needed. It's a good business. Everything, no problem with anything, other than, put it this way, if the parking lot that used to be by my building was still a public parking lot for employees, which is the way all of these downtown parking lots back in the 70s were set up, and somebody from the city, I don't know who it was, have no idea, got this brilliant idea that we should be selling all of these parking lots, including the one that you guys traded right across from Kirkwood for the, for this building. Eventually, if you keep doing this and the city does not buy more parking lots, there is going to be a real problem, because the employees are going to take all the parking spaces up on the streets. And if the employees take all the parking spots, where are customers supposed to park? That was the initial reason that all those lots were bought, and everybody from Highway 22 to 4th and from Main Street 2 blocks up, all the property owners were assessed for the maintenance of those parking lots. So the maintenance was really not costing the city anything. Yeah, you can argue whether a government entity should own parking lots for helping downtown businesses. But, if the city wants to buy the lot across the street that Don mentioned that is for sale and turn it back into a employee off-street parking, I have no problem. But if either Don Kramer or her or the city or somebody does not buy that and do that, I think you're compounding the problem. Like I said, good business idea. It's well needed in this town, but there is a parking problem. I can't say I'm 100% against it. I can't say that there might not be some shuffling around that can be done. I don't know what it is, but as things stand now, I have a real problem with it. So I guess that's it.
Thank you, Jay. Mr. Paul, do you have anything to say?
My name is Don Paul, and I own the building adjacent to Kramer's, Ponderosa Liquor Building. And I just had to spend a lot of money to get some parking for myself. And I know the city needs daycare services, but I just think she could pick a lot better spot. That corner is real busy the way it is. And people come off that hill on 4th at a pretty good speed. So I just don't think it's a good idea to just tie up all the parking on the street. So I would just suggest, or I don't know where you'd have her employees park, so it works for everybody, but for that, I'm against it. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions for the, either for the lady with the daycare or the gentleman?
I have just a couple questions, maybe one for Leonard. Even with the street parking there that there is, I've driven around there a few times even this winter since snows came down, and I'm assuming the city's responsible for removing the snow off the streets at that corner.
I guess I don't have exact answer for that. Generally, you're responsible, private property owners are responsible to the middle of the street for snow removal. The city does clean the roadways in the city of Dickinson, but you're responsible for public sidewalk.
Yep.
But there's a lot of times with the amount of snow that we've had where the snow does get pushed into the parking spaces. So I believe at that point in time, the homeowner or the property owner may be responsible for the removal of that. I would have to check with our Public Works Department how they administer that.
Okay. I guess just my comment on it. I would love to see another daycare, but I'm very concerned about the street parking. I've driven past that building multiple times when the dance studio was there, and whether it's parking anywhere or just visibility concerns, people running across the street, I'm pretty concerned about this one with the zero off-street parking here.
Okay.
May I speak again?
Yes.
Just into response for a few things, in our layout that we submitted with our paperwork, I'm sorry, I'm hormonal, I'm pregnant. So, we laid out, we have no intention of using anybody's parking lots. We have all intention of telling our customers that those are people's private paid for parking spaces. If you look beside our building on 4th Avenue, We have room for 3 to 4 cars. That takes care of all of our employees. If you look directly in front of our building, I rent the entire building minus the African market. So there's no other tenant in our building except the African market who has 1 car at a time. That leaves 3 to 4 people in front of our building. It just really hurts my heart that there's so many people in need for this town to have a daycare, and I'm trying to provide one, and it is so hard to do so. I have been at this for over a year, and the roadblocks that come up is just astronomical. I understand the concern about children on that corner. Believe me, I worked at Artistic Exchange Dance Studio. I've been there for the last 4 years. And now moving into there, I promise you that safety of the children is at the utmost of my concern. In my layout on my paperwork, where the empty lot is across the street, there is plenty of room for 5 to 6 cars there. I promise you no parent is gonna let their kid run across the street by themselves. I have taken every consideration into this. I have put my heart and soul into this. I would never expect somebody else to pay for my parking. If the city of Dickinson would consider buying that lot, absolutely, it's ran through my head, but I am a small business owner just trying to start up and bring something to this community. And you know how hard it is to do that, to be the little man, just starting out, to have somebody just believe in you to take that first step, to get started. Will that be our forever home? I don't know. But I need it to be our first stepping stone so I can bring the children in Dickinson something that they are going to remember when they get older, where parents can send their kids and know that they are safe, know that they are loved, know that they are cared for, that they don't have to worry about their children throughout the day. I have had the same 6 families in my daycare for 3 years because they know what I bring to the table. And they never want to lose that spot. They have stood by me from day one, and they continue to stand with me as I move forward on a building. I know what I bring here, and I just ask that please, if it is in your heart, I have thought out every aspect of this. And all I need is somebody to believe in me to take the first step to bring this to Dickinson. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any more comments?
One more thing again, I'll vouch for everything she just said. If you guys come up with any accommodations or there's a middle ground in here anywheres, I would ask one favor. Make darn sure that this has gotta be able to be revisited and not a permanent thing for the property. It should only be something that is usable while the daycare is there, and I don't know if it can be done, but if there becomes problems, then it has to be addressed at that point in time. If there's, if there's any room for compromise, because we weren't all large businesses to start out with either right away. Most of us were exactly where she is. And she's right, it is hard to get some things done in this town. But if there can be a compromise made, it's gotta be done reasonable so that it can be either revisited if there becomes problems, or that it is for that daycare only, and I don't know what or how that can be done, or if it can be done.
Mr. Wilhelm, the code actually states that this is with the use. If there's a separate use, it would be revisited. It's actually written out in the code.
Okay, well, that's at least one step. I don't know if there's anything else that can be done to where if there's any compromise possible, that if it becomes a problem, then it has to be revisited at that point in time. I don't know if there's anything there that can be done either.
Mr. Chairman, I have another
Yeah.
question for the city. Was there a like, how did the Artistic Exchange, what was the parking with that?
At that time, there was a city lot that was available for parking.
So that's why,
That's the lot that, well, it,
That was how it was set up.
yeah.
okay, because
So
I don't remember
There was a
that.
parking lot available.
Mrs. Winko, do you have anything to add on behalf of the city?
Mr. Chairman, no, I don't, actually. I think this is just a matter of whether you're going to allow it or you're not, given the circumstances. Obviously, the applicant is requesting the variance. It will be up to your determination on whether you think that that's appropriate. And Mr. Schwint has cited the building code requirements and the code specifications. It's going to be up to you three gentlemen to determine whether you're going to deviate from that.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I've got a question. So, Mr. Schwint, if they didn't need that space for the play area, would this not even be a consideration?
They would still be in front of the board for a reduction because I believe there would only be 4 spaces on the north side of that structure.
Okay. So how close would they be at that point?
They need a total of 11 off-street parking.
Oh, 11 off-street. And as it is, there'd be no off-street?
0, correct.
Okay. I've got a question for the applicant. So regarding outside play space, you can't, how close does that have to be?
It's really up to our licensor's discretion. The closest public play park is the small park across the street from St. Wenceslaus. So you're looking at 2 blocks up and 2 blocks over. In her head, she doesn't see that as realistic. I've even considered, I can't consider Roosevelt a play area, even though it's directly across the street. Even if we respected their recess hours or talked to the principal, she will not consider that, as it is a public school and not a public park. So with that, we have to have our own private play space, as she doesn't see the next park over as realistic to get our children there every day, because we are required to have them out for so many minutes a day, if weather requires.
Okay. I was just thinking if there's any other opportunities to save that parking space, that off-street parking, if there's any opportunities to find, there's another daycare across the street, if they would share their space.
Yeah, that's not allowed per licensing. Every daycare has to have their own separate
Okay.
per, if anything were to go wrong, it would be such a gray area of whose slap on the hand it is, essentially. Believe me, I have considered that empty lot. I ran numbers to see if I could purchase it to even build my own playground on it and leave our parking lot open, but again, as the little person, it's not always doable day one.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question for that. Have you spoken with the owner of that lot about like leasing it or temporarily using it to match up with your lease time?
Yeah, we have, I reached out to the real estate agent that is in control of it, and they have absolutely no interest in it, only sale.
Any other questions? There being no other questions, I would entertain a motion to either allow this variance or to basically forbid it. This is probably one of the toughest meetings that I've ever attended. I understand where you're coming from with the daycare center. We certainly need those here in Dickinson. And I can understand the gentleman across the alley there that they have bought and paid for their properties which unfortunately is usually what happens is the patron that drops the children off will take the easiest spot to go to and may end up in your parking lots. Is there any chance that the city would move in the direction of purchasing that lot?
Mr. Chairman, I certainly would have to discuss that with the city administrator as well as the city commission. The city commission in most recent months has moved away from the city acquiring property, rather the city selling a lot of unused lots. So that would be a reversion of the action taken recently by the city commission. But it's not something that, but it's certainly something that could be explored. I think that, you know, my business is just right downtown here too, and every time I go by that Artistic Exchange, it is quite congested. So there might be a need, but it would be certainly something that would have to be run up the chain of command to determine whether the city would be interested in something of that nature. And I can certainly put in that request. Not sure that that's going to be an answer that's going to be given relatively quickly, but it is always a possibility that could be explored.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I have one more question for the applicant. How many square feet are required for your play area?
So it goes by the square footage of your play area. I can't remember if it is 30 square feet or 45 square feet per child. So in our lot, we will be limited. So our measurements would be done, and then we would just have a set number of children that can go outside all at one time, and we would have those rotations in place of older kids go out and have this number of kids out, our toddlers go out at this time and have X number of children out. So we won't be we won't have our full 30 kids to be able to go out at one time, but we are able to do rotations with that. So that's kind of we would have plenty of space to play, but just not our entire daycare at one time.
Okay. I was just curious if there's a way to get a couple parking spots and still have enough for a play area.
It would be very hard to do. I know my landlord, Don Kramer, he expressed that our building did used to have a public parking lot that they had for employees. And within the recent few years of change, he lost that ability for his building. So then he only had the parking spaces that are behind the building. And as a tenant, I've searched building after building in this town. Believe me, I've been at this for a year trying to find a space. This building is absolutely perfect for our need here. It was the simplest thing to do. And the renovations are, I mean, this is the easiest project I've ever been able to done. And the only hiccup we have is quite literally parking. And if I had $50,000 to purchase that lot, by all means, I would have done it a month and a half ago. But as a little guy, it's not possible. Now, may I ask a question? As far as, is there a downtown parking variance that allows the downtown district to have less parking than what typical city code is?
Generally, the downtown district that's what the public parking lots are for.
Okay.
So there, you can cover your whole lot with a structure in the DC district.
Okay. Because just in looking at coding, because somebody had even brought it up as we were dabbling with this problem of parking, that with downtown, you fall under this different code or whatever. But why is it that the last two blocks don't fall under downtown when it's just as congested as this? I mean, I know that's not a problem you can fix today, but just as somebody looking from the outside in, I don't understand why we cut off downtown. Is it at the grocery store block or the block before that? All of this is downtown Dickinson zoning, but then the last two blocks that way are honestly kind of forgotten, even though we have just as much downtown congestion as you guys do. Just some food for thought, I guess.
Ms. Duchek, let me ask you, How often, what's the time intervals that these people will drop off their children?
So we will be opening at 6 a.m. unless for some reason we have no people sign up till 6:30 or 7. I'm telling you, parents are there for 5 to 10 minutes to grab their kid, get them dressed, and get out the door. So as I proposed on our street layout where I highlighted, there are umpteen parking spots. On the side of our building are enough for 4 to 5 vehicles, depending on size. That would take care of most of our employees. And then in front of our building, there's 3 to 4. I can guarantee you, I doubt there will ever be enough parents to fill in front of our building. But if that is the case, there is overflow in front of that empty parking lot for the time being. Now, I'm even saying myself, in the future, if this is something that needs to be temporary, if I can find the funds available, I will buy that lot myself. It would be wonderful if the city of Dickinson could, but this is a need for Dickinson. Bad.
Okay,
Mr. Chairman, I would
Thank
have a
you.
question for the applicant.
yes.
One, have you done renovations to the building, and if so, have you incurred those costs? And two, have you signed a lease agreement in place, and if so, are you able to, how would that affect if you were not able to move forward with the parking?
We have signed a lease agreement with Don Kramer. Our building is basically ready to open in 3 weeks, minus parking.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Gentleman back there, has there been a problem with the dance studio that you've seen as people drop their children off and pick them up? Can I get your thoughts on that, I guess?
Yes, you can. And that's the reason that I'm here. The congestion was really, really bad, and it would come like at the 5 o'clock hour. The early morning wasn't bad, but the evenings were, and we would see the overflow come from there and come into the lot. You have all these kids coming across the street, because no matter what you do, that tenant said she put a sign up and supposedly told all of her people don't go in the lot. Well, that's not the way it is. You can't control those people. They're looking for the first spot.
Yeah.
So we saw that constantly. And then my tenants came to me and said, we're seeing this thing, this is not good. So that's my comment.
Okay,
I'm 100% in favor of the daycare thing. We do need that in the city. We just need to solve the parking problem.
okay, thank you. Mr. Paul?
I'll also comment on that. Yeah, it was terrible with the dance studio, but the dancers would be there for like 20 minutes, so the moms would sit there and take up all the parking, and they were in Don's parking lot the most and in mine. But maybe there's, I don't know if she can put up that play area with just, maybe we can try it give her a trial area, but I suppose once you put it up, it's the expense is incurred, and so then it would have to stay. But I was also gonna say, there's trucks that go in and out of that alley to unload at my store, so I don't think they'd want, if they build that facility right out to the edge, they're taking their chances that there isn't some bad truck driver that's gonna take out that fence. They might have to cut it like the other daycare cut theirs off on the corner, just to be safe. I would suggest that to them.
Okay.
You never know, but I'm not totally against if there's some kind of trial period that they could try it to see if they're just dropping off and leaving. Maybe it'll be a lot different than the dance studio was.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I have a couple questions. I have one. I don't know if it's for the applicant or the city. Have you did anything with the site triangle for if you put your fence up for the play area coming out of that alley?
No, we have not. We were waiting on this meeting to get our get this passed before we moved on to the fencing. I would just like to comment on this. I completely respect what you guys have been saying 100%. I work for the dance studio in the evening time, so I know what kind of traffic they brought, but you're looking at 300 students that are staying for an hour to 2 hours to 3 hours to 4 hours. I hate to point you out, but your daughter used to dance. I used to coach her. They stay there. If you have a little kid that's only dancing for a half hour, that parent is staying there. They are sitting there for hours. Now, even though this person leaves, the next person's pulling in to stay with their child. 300 students staying and rotating through is a lot different than 30 children, and not even 30 families, because I said a lot of our parents have 2 children coming in at a time. You're looking at 30 parents rotating through. With a daycare center, I don't have time to sit and talk to parents. I don't have time for parents to sit and lollygag. It is very much you bring your kid in, update us on anything we need to know, hand your kid off to the teacher, we go about our day. That parent goes to work. They have a time schedule just as much as we do. When they come to pick them up, they grab their kid from the teacher, they get them dressed, they're on their way out the door. Maximum 5-10 minutes. Now in the wintertime, may that be a little bit longer with winter gear? Absolutely. However, there is never going to be as much of a problem of 30 families versus 300. And I know, the dance studio owner did try to keep parents out of those parking lots, but as I'm moving forward, my parents are never going to have that much overflow. And I'm even okay telling my employees to park across the street in front of the empty parking lot, so they're the ones doing the walking, and that leaves our entire corner available for parents to drop off, making 5 to 8 parking spaces for parents to rotate through.
Mr. Chairman, I've got a question. Can this daycare open without that space as a play area
Temporarily or permanently?
permanently?
No, I have to have a play area in place in order to
So-
open.
How close does that play area have to be?
How close are you speaking? Like, what is your thought process
So my question
here?
really is there a play area close enough to this daycare that you can open this daycare permanently without using that space as a outside play area?
No, like I had spoke on earlier, the closest play area that we would be allowed to consider as our play area is the public park 2 blocks up and 2 blocks over in front of St. Wenceslaus. I think it's called Simpson Park or something like that. But my daycare licensor, Emily Dolinar, does not see that as a doable feed every day with
Okay.
30 children.
And so if you, and it's not feasible to make an agreement with the school across the street to make some arrangement with them. My point is, if it's possible to do something, then we can have that trial period to where if without this, using this as employee parking, if there's absolutely no problem and it looks like there's no issue whatsoever, maybe adding a play area there isn't going to impact it that much.
Yeah, so I think the only reason my licensor doesn't allow us to consider like Roosevelt Elementary School is because that is the public schools and not technically a public park. Now, I can go take my children to play there anytime I want. Roosevelt's not going to kick you off the property. Now, can I take my daycare over there and, let them play? Absolutely, I can. But I'm not sure why it is that my licensor will not allow that to be our written in play area. I'm not sure if it just falls under because of what entity it is, because it is a public school versus a public park. It's really hard, so realistically our only option is to do the back parking lot, and we fully plan on staying in code. However, the fence needs to be, if we need to curve it because of truck access, I'm totally okay with that.
Mr. Chairman, I have another question. How long can you open temporarily without the play area?
Yeah, so I have been in contact with Emily Dolinar, our licensing specialist. She said we are able to open without our fenced-in play area temporarily, as long as her and I are in contact as to what that timeline looks like. Obviously, it's wintertime in North Dakota. Can they put up a fence? at this moment, it's hard to say. So as long as I'm in contact with her, realistically, she would probably give me till springtime to get that fence placed. But she also has to have the parking variance in writing to know that that fence is going to be done before she will allow that.
Mr. Schwint, I have a question for you. Do you see any problems with the fence that she's talking about being put in, taking into consideration what Mr. Paul said? I would imagine it would go out to the property line. Will that create any issues?
Per our fence code with the city of within our municipal code is, we have to adhere to our vision triangle zones. So, I'd have to look at the property to lay that out. So in order to get a fence permit, you have to abide by all our code standards.
Okay.
One other comment, also, since we talked about if the board is actually considering this variance, is that the street parking, and as far as relying on the city to remove the snow, whether the city could actually do that, the timeline probably wouldn't match up with pick up and drop off. So whether or not the applicant would be willing to put that in motion as far as keeping that area clear, so that when neighboring property owners are clearing their snow, that's where people are going to park. If these on-street parking spots are full of snow, they're going to park where it's clear, obviously. Whether or not the applicant would be responsible for clearing that.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I just have a
Yeah.
comment. I would love to see this daycare open up. I've been trying to find a way to find another solution for parking or anything like that. I'm not sure I can come up with anything off the top of my head. I have a tough time going for 0 off-street parking spots, especially just with even the snow. Looking at snow here, I mean, in the winter there would be times where there would be snow that's not removed, and there's 0 off-street parking spots. There's 0 on-street parking spots also. So that is one of my concerns. If there could be that separate lot that we could get some sort of thing for, I would be leaning more towards a temporary thing. If there would be a solution with a temporary lot to have some play area or parking there. But I also know there was a different building in this town that had opened with a parking across a busy street that was supposed to take care of their parking spots, and that ended up being a huge issue and problem for us too. So the parking, not only downtown is an issue, but in other areas of town too, where the traffic is very hard. It's very hard to get the parking spots, and we had a huge issue with that. So I would love to see this open. I guess I'm up for tabling or something also, to if there was a way that we could come up with another solution to get some off-street parking spots, or maybe her licensor could consider some of those spots close to the building that we could leave as parking. But I guess with 0 off-street parking, I'm very concerned.
As far as the snow removal goes, we have actually already, not even being open, we have paid for our own private snow removal to happen, to clear spots just for ourselves while we are working on the building. So I have absolutely no problem in taking care of that. We already planned to do so in that aspect.
Okay.
I think I have to agree as well that I struggle with having no off-street parking. I think I would be in favor of tabling it as well. If you take this back to your daycare person and see if there's a compromise that can be made on the play area. Because even if that off-street parking was in place, would she still be in front of us for a variance?
She would be.
Okay. I would be more inclined to approve a variance if there could be an agreement to have a play area somewhere else. And, if it works out that you need to come back here in 6 months, and the landowners are saying, she's taking care of everything, there's no issues. You know, we're gonna agree to, the employees are gonna park somewhere else, wherever that is. You know, then I would be more in favor of looking at it again. But I would struggle to make it worse than it is.
May I comment?
Okay.
So just in response to that, I am not allowed to open my doors at all until a parking variance is approved. And she knows exactly where my play area is going. Until then, I have to keep my doors closed. I cannot even be approved because I have to have city walk through, I have to have fire walk through, I have to have health department walk through. And then once all of those are passed, and obviously I can't pass city if I can't prove what my parking is. So she can't even come and do her final walkthrough to say, yes, your daycare is approved to open, and start that licensing paperwork to open 2 to 3 weeks later. This would keep my doors closed, and I would be paying months and months and months of rent and leaving children without daycare. Even the daycare I serve currently, I have 2 families that have newborn babies with nowhere to go because I am limited within my home. There's no daycare in town. There's absolutely, you have to fight for spots. So I have 2 families that have been with me for years who just brought new babies into the world. And yes, they want to stay with me, but they have nowhere for these newborn babies to go. And this is part of the reason I opened this building, is because I have to have more space to give these children. I have to have more space to let these families grow. And if I don't get into this space here quickly, these families are quite literally without daycare because I'm limited within my home and there's no other daycares for them to go to. So I quite literally cannot open my doors at the facility until a parking variance is in place and I can tell her where my playground is going. Until then, my hands are completely tied and we are paying rent and seeing absolutely no income or benefit from it.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
Yes.
Could you open with a smaller capacity in any way with like splitting that between parking and play area? I'm just trying to find a solution of where you could temporarily open, you could open,
I guess I'm not understanding what you're saying.
like instead of having 30, can you open with say 12?
we
I know the number
we
is
could, but there would
long-term
be
don't work.
honestly no like monetary benefit to that. I wouldn't have enough to pay my overhead, my employees, and keep the doors open essentially. Feeding children's expensive right now. Utilities are going up. Rent isn't always cheap. So, I mean, to be financially feasible, 30 kids, my building can hold 90 children. My building has enough square footage for 90 children. But I'm only taking 30, yes, because that's what I can do right now with the requirements I have under my belt. But kids have more space to play. Now, would I ever put 90 children in that building? I'm going to tell you absolutely not, because that is crazy insane. Like, I can't see that ever happening. But 30 kids realistically isn't much. I would say at most you're going to have 20 to 25 families filtering through, because again, a lot of them have 2 children.
Mr. Chairman, I have one more question. For you 3 gentlemen back there, do you have any excess parking lot space in your buildings, or know of any excess parking lot space where she could possibly rent part of a parking lot downtown or close to her building? You don't?
I don't, I'm ready Saturday I had to haul snow because that's, my parking lot is where I put the snow.
Yeah. Okay.
And we've been filled up too. I don't see the market sparing either.
Okay.
I know this is kind of a long shot, but would you gentlemen be interested in allowing this as a trial period for, say, 3 months? And I know that on the on Mrs. Ducart's side, that's sticking your neck out. In 3 months, if the gentleman didn't approve it, there were a lot of problems, we would not allow it to proceed. But I too feel the dire need for these daycare centers, and it's just very unfortunate we are where we are with it. But, again, trying to find some way to, allow this to take place. And I understand fully, you gentlemen, what you're saying, but, just trying to find a means of, kind of going down the center and trying it and seeing if that may happen.
Mr.
Don?
Chairman, just to comment on that very quickly, just so that we're aware and we make sure of whose approval is required here, it's your approval. It is not the approval of the adjacent landowners. So if the board decides to move forward on a trial basis, I think the best way to characterize that is for these gentlemen, the adjacent property owners, to be able to come back in front of you with any concerns. And then you make the decision at that time whether you want to continue or you want to revoke the license. But it's not the adjacent landowners that make that decision. It's the board. It's you. So just so we're clear on that, any other property owner can certainly come forward with concerns. And again, only speaking strictly on a trial basis if you decide to go that route. We just don't want it coming back where it's, oh, you said we could deny this. So it's the board's purview, just so we're clear on
I
that.
understand that, yes. I'm just asking if they're honest and they're fine citizens of Dickinson, and I know that they're caught between a rock and a hard place, just as we are here, so I'm just asking that.
So my
Don?
question was, what would be our recourse? Would it be in writing saying, this happens, that's a complaint, how do we handle it? Or does it just go by the wayside and we have no recourse if we were to come forward and say we're on board with this? What would be our recourse?
I think probably another meeting in 3 months, and just to see how this is unfolding.
Right.
I'm not sure. I guess that's something maybe we would need to really look at, but
Well, I think we would, again, if the board is open to considering that option, I think we'd have to build it into the motion with very specific specifications with regard to concerns or issues brought forward by the adjacent landowners and addressing those in turn. I think, you know, I to the applicant's point, it probably is a little bit different than the existing dance studio with the drop-off times and how many individuals are going to be rolling through there. So maybe that does warrant a trial period, but I also think that, you know, there is a trial period for a reason. So maybe it's an automatic revisit this in 3 months or 4 months, and it comes back in front of this board to say, how are things going? Is it working? Is it not? You know, what do we need to do? And the other thing, obviously, on the applicant side of it is we grant this, there's a lot of time, money, and investment that goes into something like this. And to have that pulled back in 4 months would be quite detrimental to the applicant as well. So it is a very tough situation for both sides. I completely understand and I get it. So we've got to be creative in how we structure that to make sure that those expectations are being met. And that the adjacent landowners have an opportunity to voice their concerns if there are any, but understanding the applicant knows that if things aren't going well, the city has the right to pull it back. That's a really risky position to be in as the applicant too.
Mr. Chairman, I have
Thank you.
another question for the applicant. The Fourth Avenue side of the building, is there access to the building from Fourth Avenue?
Yes.
There
We
is.
have access from the south, north, or sorry, did you say west or east?
It would be the east side of the
Yes,
building.
and the east. The only side we don't have a door on is the east, as that would be connected to other tenants in the building.
Okay. So,
Sorry. Yes. Yes.
okay.
Yes,
so
we
there
have
is-
access from
on
the east
street-
side.
On the street side, there is a.
Yes.
Okay. You know, again, we've had a situation before where the city allowed, not enough off-street parking, and it made the neighborhood worse. And so you're asking us to approve this by making it worse than it is today, and there's already problems today. You know, I you know, my position is that, if you could find, again, I get back to, I'm hoping that your daycare your daycare person can, you know, be a little more favorable, letting you get something closer, allow something that's closer to work. Or if you came back and had a spot for your employees where you had an agreement with an adjacent landowner somewhere where at least your employees are guaranteed not to use those spaces. And if you required your drop-off people to use that 4th Avenue side, maybe that's kind of a compromise that we can come to here, because the problem would be, to me, on the south side, that's going to affect the 3 businesses here. If the drop-off is, if you don't allow any access on the south side and all the access is on the east side, shouldn't affect these businesses as much.
Now, I guess in my head, excuse me, we have that entire corner. We have Don Kramer's building completely minus that African market. So I guess in my head, my parents aren't going to park across the street at Kelly Brown Insurance Agency. They're going to park directly in front of our front door. And just from experience of working at the dance studio, you can fit a solid 4 or 5 cars from our corner to the alleyway there on our side of First Street. And then on 4th Avenue, right against our building, you can fit another 3, 4 cars, depending on the size. If you have 3 Suburbans, you're going to have 3. If you have some smaller compact cars, you're going to fit 4. But that's 7 families that can be parked at a time. Now, those are just rotating through. Now, I understand your concern of other businesses have impacted communities as well, but is that a business where people are coming and staying? Or are they people rotating through? Daycare is such a different category of business, realistically. I mean, in working through this, we have such different requirements than anything else in business. We have our own separate laws and regulations that we have to follow. And unfortunately, with my licensor, her hands are tied at the state of North Dakota and what their code is and what they say licensed daycares have to have. She can't bend and sway those to any degree. I have explored every single corner of this matter for the last year. I have picked her brain. I have asked every single question you can ever think possible, because I've been at this for 5 years. I know what it entails, and I know what we have to bring. Now, stepping into a facility, it's a little bit different avenue, but I have asked every question in the book. I have explored every single space that we could possibly use. Now, again, I said in the future, if I can afford to buy that lot myself, I would love to give my kids a bigger playground and put a fence on there, put a huge playground on that empty lot, have some parking spaces over there, open up our back parking spaces. That's a possibility. But at this exact time, I don't have, that guy is asking $70,000 for that lot. $70,000. I don't just have that. I already have so many expenses just to get the building up and going. But I promise you that if you pass this variance, I'm not just going to sit on my rusty dusty and say, okay, it's passed, we're good, and just let it sit there. I fully respect where these men are coming from. I respect their businesses. I understand how hard it is and what you put into your business. Your heart and soul goes into it. They've put their lives into this. I'm starting where they started. And I know how hard this is. Believe me, I've had many days of tears and triumphs. And even if you could pass the variance to be approved, and if there is complete chaos and you say that it's not right, by all means, come and revoke it. Please just consider it for the children of this town. Thank you.
Thank you. Gentlemen, do we?
I know we kind of touched on this a little bit, but is there any way that on that Fourth Avenue side, there could be a designated zone by either Don's overhead door or the back, not the back parking lot door, because if that gets fenced, that won't be usable. But he's got a side door right by the garage door. Is there any possibility that that could be used? You know how the schools do it, drop-off zones? Drop-off and pickup zones? I know that complicates her life even more.
It is a public street and it is public parking. This is a private business, so as far as creating a zone for a private business, I don't believe that is in our municipal code.
It's just another option I thought of. I didn't, you know, because even if you could get her employees to park hodgepodge around on some of the other streets, the problem is if that can't be done and she runs to her full capacity of 30, you know, even when that happened, the African market, whatever it was called before that, when the dance studio was full, they a lot of times would park their delivery van way down by my building. And that took up you know, basically 2 spots. Because nobody, the problem with parking, okay, here is an alleyway, here's a street. The problem with parking is nobody ever drives in and does this. They drive in and they do this. The next car drives in and does this. You know, they don't, people don't know how to park efficiently, and most people don't know how to parallel park anymore. You know, unless they have a vehicle that does it for them. They pull in and, you know, they're 5 to 6 feet away from any entrance or egress, because either they don't want to get the front of their car clipped or they just don't know how to park. That's the problem.
Thank you, Jay. Any other questions? Is there a motion to either accept this variance or to take it back?
Mr. Chairman, as much as I
Yes.
hate to do it, I'm gonna make a motion to deny the variance as presented.
Okay. There has been a motion to deny the request for the off-street parking to be 0. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a second to that motion. Any other questions? Any other comments? There being none, Mr. Burke,
Aye.
Trevor,
Aye.
and I will vote aye. Very, very sorry to indicate that to you, but hopefully, perhaps you can visit with Don, and maybe Don can purchase that lot and help things out for you.
If there's something that she finds out, she can come back in front of you.
Yes.
Yeah.
She can come back next meeting. I believe, or wherever that.
Every meeting this is prevented is another month that these kids do not have daycare. That is what I was trying to stress. Every time this is prevented and strung out another month, that is another month of expenses from my family.
I understand your situation, Mrs. Dukart. I think that I would just suggest you go back and visit with Don. I know Don very well. Has he been, have you visited with him a lot about this?
I even put in a statement saying that his building has lost parking in the past years because there was public parking for his building, and that was pulled from him. He stated that in his statement for my application. If any other business went in here, how many parking spaces would they need? Would 4 cover that entire building of 3 tenants? There's 3 tenants in that building, and you're telling me 4 parking spaces is gonna cover all of their businesses? You are choking out people trying to bring business to Dickinson, trying to bring jobs to Dickinson, trying to bring daycare and safe havens for children. You are choking out the small people that are trying to make a difference. This breaks my heart. It really does.
Is there any other comments from the city attorney? Anything that you may suggest to us that,
What
or to the applicant?
What I can suggest, the only thing that I can do at this point, I will certainly talk with the city administrator about the concerns with parking in the area to see what, if anything, the city could potentially do. I do know that it was a couple years ago, I think that that lot was sold on a public bid process. I don't know if it was adjacent to the Ponderosa or not. I can't remember. It's been a while ago, but I will certainly run these concerns up the chain to see if there is anything. Obviously, you know, the city does want its downtown to grow. It's been quite a focal point for the city, and obviously parking is always a concern downtown. So I will run it up the chain of command and see what we can do. Obviously making no promises to anyone about what the city can or cannot do, but is it a valid concern? Absolutely. So we'll see. We'll voice those concerns.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments from the board here?
Just another comment or a question for the attorney. Is there any recourse for Christie?
As far as this board's decision,
Yes.
if I recall correctly, and again, without having looked at it, I do believe that there is a possibility that she can take it to the city commission. But I'd have to confirm that and verify that. Mr. Schwint, can you?
That's accurate. She
Okay.
can appeal to the city commission.
Okay, and obviously that will be something that she will have to determine whether she wants to do or not. That doesn't prevent me from, again, voicing those concerns up the chain, but that is the applicant's prerogative if she does desire to do that. And of course, the city commission has the ability to affirm or reverse this board's decision.
Okay,
Mr. Chairman, I just have a comment. I think we all would love to see this daycare open. This exact application, I don't see we could find a way to make it work at this moment, but we want the daycare to open. We would love to find another solution for you, but that exact solution right now doesn't seem to work for us as a board and everybody else. So if there's any way, I know you've been working hard at it, but if anything comes up or you can come any sort of other thing, I think we'd be more than happy, to try to find a way to make it work for you. But with the zero off-street parking, it's obviously doesn't work out at this time.
Well, unfortunately, this basically shuts the doors. I don't have $70,000 to purchase a lot. I just lost $30,000 getting a building ready. I have employees waiting to get jobs. I have families begging to get in that door. Begging to get in the door because they hired a body that can breathe to watch their child
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I think, obviously, we're going past this here, so the motion has been made, it's been seconded, it's been approved. I would just say to the applicant, there is another opportunity. It doesn't end here. So if you decide that you do want to take it to the city commission, I would suggest you visit with Mr. Schwint on making the appropriate notifications. That's going to be your choice. Obviously, the city commission can address this on a new basis and make a decision. So that is where we'll leave it. And that's going to be your choice, and you can have an opportunity to have that addressed if you choose to do so. Ultimately, the city commission's decision is going to be the final decision, but it doesn't end here today if you choose to do that. So again, I would visit with Mr. Schwint on if you decide to do that, making sure you're getting the necessary notices into his office so it can get run up the proper chain of command if you decide to do that.
Thank you. I guess I'd just like to add as well that we're very sorry that this didn't go your way, but I think some of the city rulings on parking are need to be revisited, especially in a situation like this. And I do recommend that you follow up and take the next step with the city. Thank you very much for coming before us this morning. Gentlemen, thank you for coming. And any other questions for the board?
Mr. Chairman, I move to adjourn.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second. We are adjourned. Thank you very much.